2016 election. 80% of white evangelicals voted for Donald Trump, a man who has had several failed marriages, several confirmed extramarital affairs, and has the most hate-filled speech out of any political candidate over recent memory. So this reflects a problem in the church of not being politically informed. So today we're going to examine that problem, going to suggest a plan for fixing it, and study the effects of what will happen if we do implement that plan. According to a religious news service article from May 25th, 2016, entitled "Fewer Churches Are Involved in Politics, and That's Not Good," fewer churches are involved in politics, and that's not good. The article goes on to state that year-round engagement of the church in political affairs is steadily falling. And also on the website Preach It, Teach It, Russell Moore wrote an article saying that church members are generally ignorant in political affairs. And we can see this in three ways. Through the support for Donald Trump, through social media, and through the Christian equals Republican mentality. First, the overwhelming support of Christians for Donald Trump is especially puzzling when you consider that Pope Francis actually questioned Trump's salvation, the most liberal and licentious pope from recent memory, questioned our current president's salvation, according to the Jamaican Gleaner on February 25th, 2016. The second way is social media. Now, we all know that the worst place to get your information, especially during the election season, is social media. But that's where most people, including many evangelicals, get their information from around that time. And we should measure our opinions against Scripture, not against Facebook. Third, the Christian equals Republican mentality. On September 20th, 2016, Chip Ingram wrote on the blog Living on the Edge that God is not a Republican, Democrat, or Independent. And it is ignorant to assume so, and that affects us. The ignorance affects us in two ways. First, the lack of voting, and second, the church simply not being the church. First, according to a Crosswalk article from March 7th, 2002, 18 to 32-year-olds make up 1/3 of eligible voters, but less than 20% of actual voters. And this study was done 15 years ago, so that disparity is actually likely higher. But also, the church is simply not being the church. According to a letter to the editor of Daily News Zimbabwe, not to be confused with Daily News UK, which is the normal Daily News you hear about, the church represents the voice of the people, especially the poor and the marginalized. And so by not getting involved in political affairs, we are, in essence, helping to silence those voices when we should be speaking out on their behalf. But you might ask, what difference can we make? After all, the government is so big and the church is relatively small. But we can see two ways that we can make a difference. The first is that voting and educating ourselves determines ultimately who is in charge of the nation. And secondly, according to ABC News on July 18th, 2016, 80% of U.S. adults identify as Christian. That makes us by far the biggest religion-based voting bloc. So, yes, this needs to happen, but what exactly should happen? And the plan can be summarized through this statement. The church should tackle all political issues, from abortion to foreign trade to taxation, and from the pulpit to the small group to social media. So we've already answered why, but now let's look at who, what, when, where, and how much. So who is obviously the church, both corporately and individually, according to the previously mentioned Ingram blog post. Christian individuals, are not educated in political affairs as much as they should be. And what exactly should we do? How do we get involved in government? And I'm not talking about doing like Westboro does and picketing funerals of homosexuals or soldiers. I'm talking about gaining political knowledge and comparing Bible opinions with the Bible and then voting accordingly. Comparing opinions with the Bible is what those Christian individuals should do according to the same Chip Ingram blog post. This needs to happen, in answer to when, this needs to happen week long, not just Sunday and Wednesday, but all week as we're at work, as we're at home, which also enters where? Not just in the church building, but as we're having conversations with our family and friends and with random people at the coffee shop. So for how much? Although there is a such thing as too much info or being over-informed because you get bogged down and you frankly get depressed, most people in the church are so under-informed that I would suggest an all-you-can-eat diet, at least for now. But there might be this plan should be implemented, but there might be an objection saying that, well, government's inherently evil. Why should we participate in it? To make it not evil. And I've found 3 examples of that. One from the Old Testament, one from the New Testament, and then one from modern times. In the Old Testament, in the books of Genesis and in Daniel, you see how Joseph and Daniel worked in secular governments, worked in godless governments, and rose up in ranks. I believe both of them actually became the second in command to the ruler of their particular governments. The second is in the New Testament. According to Russell Moore, Luke 3:13 and 14 tells how John the Baptist told government officials, tax collectors, and centurions how they can be godly in politics. They repented, he baptized them, and then he said, go out and do your jobs, work in the government, but don't take advantage of people. Do it in a godly way. And then the example from modern times. Martin Niemöller, a German pastor, was quoted in the Christian Post, a German pastor from the 1930s and 40s, was quoted in the Christian Post as he was having a personal meeting with Adolf Hitler. He stood before him and said, not you, Herr Hitler, but God is my Führer. So that's another example of someone who was influential in government and who took a stand for Christ. Now, he was thrown in prison for that, but he still took a stand for Christ, and he attempted, at least, to influence his government. So we've already shown that we need this plan, but what's going to happen if we don't use it? And there are 3 things that I believe will happen if we don't implement this plan, if people do not gain political knowledge and vote based on what the Lord tells them. The first is that, according to the Christian Post from March 1st, 2017, Donald Trump had promised to sign an executive order guaranteeing businesses owned by Christians religious freedom. You remember that case of the bakery in New Mexico, I think it was New Mexico, that chose not to bake a wedding cake for a gay couple, and that business ended up shutting down because of the backlash that had happened with that. This executive order would protect them. But even though he had promised that all through his campaign, as of March 1st, he had not signed it into effect. So if we do not educate ourselves and vote based on godly principles, then we can have 4 more years of this, or even someone else like him. The second is that certain anti-Christian policies, maybe not by this administration, but certainly by others, certain anti-Christian policies would not be called out if we do not implement this plan. The third thing, and I'm just going to read this quote, it's from the Imaginative Conservative from December 12, 2014. Ultimate standards matter, and if the church does not explain what they are and how to apply them, someone else will. So, if the church does not explain godly standards, then either the media will or people in government will. Something's going to happen, and it's not going to be, there's not going to be a godly influence in society. So if we do implement this plan, we can start to we can work against these anti-Christian policies before they even happen, the ones that I mentioned earlier. Will be equipped to vote for a Christian candidate, and there will be more Christian politicians in Washington. And I'm going to just end with this quote from Thomas Jefferson. He his letter to the Danbury Association in Connecticut, which is where the phrase separation of church and state comes from. And it's most of the time it's misinterpreted, and this is what he actually meant. This is his definition for it. He says, religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he gives account to none other for his faith or his worship, and that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions. So Thomas Jefferson believed not that government should have no influence from the church, but the church should have no influence from the government.